Say his name and he appears.
Mikhail Mulipola, who's an artist, bloody Sāmoan, I believe it is.
I believe you meant me. So, the latest episode of the Offside Show, they talk about the Destiny Church attack on Te Atatū Library and the fallout from that. But what they spend more time on is criticizing the drag rainbow story time. And because my name is mentioned, I watched the episode. And so this video is me setting the record straight and breaking down and fact-checking a lot of their biased and prejudiced language towards drag performers and our rainbow inga, as well as the minimization of the harm caused by Destiny Church, Man Up, and Legacy Sisterhood.
There was a Houston public reading where one of the drag queens had read 3 times, and they found out that he was a convicted registered sex offender who did perform oral sex on an 8-year-old. So obviously the those involved with that drag queen reading apologized, and their vetting process was off.
So notice the papers on Eliota's desk. Those are his notes. So he does do a little bit of research before each episode so that he can stay on topic and stay on the issues at hand that they're discussing. So it's very telling. It's very interesting to me that he had this particular case ready to go to derail the drag story time movement.
But yeah, there's that. Well, I'm not going to throw that in there just to sort of like garner hate against the whole thing, you know what I mean?
And then after presenting the details of this case, he then tries to stochastically walk it back and be like, oh, but don't take that as a blanket statement to paint all drag performers with. And the problem with that is that you've already presented the bias to your audience. Now trying to walk it back, you're just trying to cover your ass. Eliota easily brings in these case details from Houston, Texas, USA into the conversation. But there's nothing pertaining to anything locally here in Aotearoa. In fact, throughout the whole episode, there's not a single fucking mention, not a single fucking detail around Kiwa Hamiora Tahira, youth leader for Boys to Men and Destiny Church, who was found guilty of prolonged sexual abuse of 6 male victims. That abuse included over 200 incidents of indecent assault and 1 sexual violation. Kiwa's family are prominent in the Destiny Church and are very good friends of the Tamaki family. His half-brother, Caleb, is often on stage alongside Brian Tamaki for their protests and televised sermons.
I saw that post that Chanel did, and the one that you shared. But look. Something that must be pointed out is 90% of those dudes are homosexual pedophiles, okay? So it's pedophilia against boys. And in one case, like Alan Woodcock, who's on that list, he was convicted before for sexually assaulting a man. All right, so they're homosexuals, which is part of the rainbow community, and that part's missed out.
This right here is probably the most dangerous rhetoric that Eliota employs throughout the whole episode, because by claiming that 90% of the church child abusers list are homosexual, he's conflating homosexuality with pedophilia, further enforcing the homophobic trope of pedophilia equals homosexuality. When the truth is, according to the research and the studies and the science, only 21% of child molesters identify as homosexual. Nearly 80% of men who molest little boys were heterosexual or bisexual, and most of those men were married and had children of their own. I suggest you check out the Zero Abuse Project website for all the research and the citations. People fail to realize that sexual abuse, child abuse, domestic abuse isn't about sexual orientation or sexual desire. It is often about power and control. You mentioned it offhandedly, but you are correct. You're most likely to find child abusers and pedophiles amongst your teachers, your colleagues, your pastors, your brothers, your fathers, your uncles, than you are to find them amongst drag performers and trans people. The real threat to children's safety are cis, hetero, straight males.
The so-called violent part had to do with the drag queen reading in the library.
This whole episode is rife with Eliota constantly downplaying and playing off the violence by Destiny Church as more being like concerned citizens, and that's their right as ratepayers. Danny, on the other hand, identifies it as being more homophobic and hateful.
You know, as a ratepayer, some of those Destiny's Church members are entitled to go into the library. You know, and then to be stopped, and then obviously the violence escalates, or it escalates.
This novel idea Eliota has that ratepayers have the absolute right to enter any public building that their rates may pay for is some entitled Karen bullshit. The library staff had told the Destiny Church protesters that they can protest in the public space, in the public area outside the library, but they cannot enter the building because the library staff, the community center staff, have absolute authority to trespass anyone. They have the absolute right to refuse entry to anyone. It's not just a given because you pay rates.
So I don't think that they should have been blocked. And a lot of the ruckus came from when they were blocked from going in. And then what? They did a haka in there and then they left?
Destiny Church didn't just do a haka and then leave. They spent 17 minutes storming the building. And in storming the building, they injured and hurt members of the public, library and community centre staff, as well as Auckland Pride staff. In fact, the New Zealand Herald reported on 2 young women, a 20-year-old and a 16-year-old, who suffered from bruised ribs, bruised arms, as well as a concussion.
I didn't think it was that bad, but then when it came to the library reading, again, I don't know why they stopped them though. Like, what if they went in there and literally just stood there? Okay, we're speculating, but...
My friend Emily Wrights interviewed some of the families in Te Atatū library that were holed up in the room as Destiny Church invaded the building. This is what she reports, and this is what Sammy, an 11-year-old, had to say about the ordeal. Despite the angry screaming from the gang outside, they weren't too worried. But around 20 minutes into the performance, their joy turned to terror. I started to get really scared when the chanting got louder and we heard it inside, and especially when they were banging on the door. I was scared they were going to get in, Sammy says. I thought they'd come in and hurt people. As a woman was pulled into the room sobbing and was checked for injuries, Sammy's dad and the other parents in the room followed Hugo's lead to just keep the energy up. It was unspoken, but everyone in the room knew their role. And let's not forget Caleb Leasamaivao's very creepy, non-consensual demand to let him pass.
Hey boss, let's not make this up. Let's not make this up, boss.
You're right, Eliota. You're speculating. What people keep fucking forgetting is that I was there at Te Atatū Library. I saw firsthand with these fucking eyes the hurt, the pain, the trauma, the fallout of the destruction left in Destiny Church's wake after invading Te Atatū Library. It's real fucking easy for armchair critics and social media experts to weigh in on the subject as outside observers. What you forget is that I'm on the ground, in community, in the fucking trenches. What I say online, I back up offline, and that's the difference. I actually see with my own eyes what the fuck is happening, what the fuck is going on. And that is a lot more than all of you fucking keyboard warriors can say.
If they can create that in another environment where parents are more kind of willing to take their kids, but in the middle of a public library, I think that's kind of where you draw the line.
Hugo's Rainbow Show was a free ticketed event. So the parents there actively decided to take their children to learn about how rainbows are made thanks to Hugo's extravagant costumes. It wasn't open for every single child in the Te Atatū area. But if you wanted to take your child there, you had the freedom, you had the choice to do so. Destiny Church also had the choice not to take their children to the Rainbow Show, which they did not. But they still felt the need to throw a fucking tantrum and literally push and shove their Christian extremist agenda down our throats. If you're familiar with the Te Atatū library space, you'd know that Hugo's Rainbow Show was not held in the actual library itself. It was upstairs in the creative lab area in one of the small rooms, which they barricaded the children and the parents, as well as Hugo, away from the violence of Destiny Church.
And I just kind of found out that the person at Te Atatū is an actual adult entertainer as well. So when you kind of have those elements kind of put into it, it's kind of like, so we have an adult entertainer entertaining the kids, educating them. That's going to read wrong for anyone.
And here we go with the slut shaming, the sex work shaming. And Hugo Girl may be an adult entertainer, but speaking as a fellow entertainer, as a fellow performer in the professional wrestling ring, and there is a point to be made about pro wrestling being drag as well, but I digress. You've got to know your audience. You've got to create works for your audience. And so even if the majority of your work is for adult entertainment or adult audiences, when you're there with children, you create works that are age appropriate. It's what we do. It's how we do our thing. Myself, when I go to schools all around the country, primary schools, intermediate schools, high schools, universities, my presentation is geared towards that age group. It is age appropriate. And that is very much like what Hugo Girl does with their Rainbow Show, where they talk and read a book about how rainbows are made, and then they back it up with these over-the-top extravagant costumes. It's nothing more than a costumed reading, like a librarian dressing up as Spider-Man and reading a Marvel kids book.
A whole drag queen reading started up in 2015 from a lady named Michelle T, a 40-year-old, in her 40s. She looks Pālangi. And it's pretty much only been like a Western European thing. So they tried it in a few countries in Europe, and obviously lots of big backlash. But it's gained momentum in America, Australia, UK, and America. Okay, so it's a colonial concept being trialed in colonial countries, and it exists nowhere else. Not in Asia, not in Africa, or any other countries.
Asia, you say? Drag performance as a form of entertainment and education has been around for centuries. It's not just a European colonial invention. The Peking Opera and the Onagata of the Kabuki Theatre have entered the chat.
So it's a weird one, man. I'm the same. I don't understand it. And when you follow what's happening in the European societies and the Pālangi societies, and you see their movies and you see their media, you can see that there's an agenda being pushed.
If you've spent any real time with our Rainbow whānau, you'll know that the only agenda they have is to love and to live. Because we know youth suicide rates are super damn high here in Aotearoa, but they're highest amongst trans and queer whānau who have been rejected by their families, rejected by society. And all they want to do, their agenda, is to live a life free of hate, free of discrimination. And the equity that is created to ensure that they can live those lives, that scares cis straight males. That scares the patriarchy.
She said she started up Drag Queen Stories was in order to capture the imagination and play of gender fluidity in children. So, it's that, like, they're trying to get across gender fluidity. That you can be one of the 90 plus genders.
There's 90 plus genders?
Yeah, there's more than that. There's adjectives as well now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're going into adjectives. And
Eliota can barely contain his disdain for the concept of gender fluidity and the 90 plus genders that he mentions. And the thing is, those gender identities, that gender fluidity, sexual expression, varied sexual expression, they have always been part of human history. They have always been part of the human experience. They have been around. They have existed since humans have been walking this earth. And for a lot of people, those categorizations, that quantification gives them comfort, being able to say, this is who I am. And for others, they are unquantifiable. And so very much like late stage autism diagnoses, neurodivergent diagnoses, it gives a lot of comfort for a lot of people to know that they finally have a name for who they are.
And it's a good speech. He's like, look, we if you ever feel like you're confused with your gender or whatever, we support it. It's okay, but do it at home. That's all. Yeah. Like, why do it in the public space? Ratepayers, all of us pay as well, you know.
And here we have Eliota agreeing with Phineas Mann's post-raid speech, where he essentially says, "It's okay to be gay, but not around me." Essentially advocating for gay people, queer people to go back into the closet. And it's funny that, like, there's this idea of, oh, if you're confused about your gender, just stay home, keep it out of the public, keep away from us. When I recall one of those people like yourself, Eliota, who was confused about the vaccine, confused about COVID, confused about the side effects and about the mandates, did you guys stay the fuck home? No, you didn't. You fucking had a piss and a moan. You fucking occupied the Parliament grounds. You guys threw a fucking tanty. So have a sook, cunt.
And we were just talking about it before, like, libraries are non-political. It's just a space where you can go and read books in a quiet space for everybody. And the only way it's going to stay free and free for your thinking and available for everybody is if it doesn't push an agenda and it doesn't pick one side and hold things, you know, readings or whatever for any sides. It's just got to stay nothing. That's how it has to be.
In a perfect world, libraries would be apolitical, but that's not the reality. Because when you have Christian extremists who uphold one book as the absolute truth, anything that challenges that book, anything that challenges their beliefs, becomes a target, becomes an enemy. And we've been seeing it with libraries all around the world, with a barrage of book bans, particularly in the US, and now making its way to Aotearoa. And the people that are spearheading those book bans are Christian cults, evangelical Christian cults, just like Destiny Church, just like City Impact Church, and the rest of them. They are politicizing libraries, which is a big call for these churches to try and change the government and force the government to do shit when they don't pay their taxes.
Yeah, I don't know, bro. I don't know. I just think it's really sad that someone's lost their job over this because someone screenshot him 5 centimeters inside the door.
So that clip of Bailey being screenshotted 5 centimeters inside the building only came about because I was getting challenged by his supporters, because they were saying that he never entered the building, he never took part, he was outside. In fact, he told his mother that he was outside feeding his son when it all happened, that he only arrived after the assault on Te Atatū Library, when the live stream shows otherwise. He is an active participant. He followed the initial crew into the building, and as they start storming the stairwell, he is seen smiling and laughing and in support of their actions. Then the live streamer walks past Bailey, and so Bailey is out of shot for a while. And so that's what I used. I used the bits that showed Bailey in the building and without showing the violence, because Auckland Pride requested that we do not share those distressing images of staff being injured, of members of the public being injured by Destiny Church. And I will honor their request. I will honor the request of the victims of said violence.
So there's a difference. See how it's not Christianity or rainbow community. The Whawhawhinge, they try and put them in this colonial rainbow community, but a lot of their beliefs are not of the rainbow community. Okay, so they are no, trans women are not biological women. They cannot get the malu. Okay, so that would be against the rainbow community.
Yeah.
Okay, they also were against the transgender Laurel Hubbard, who won gold medal in front of 2 Sāmoan women.
Yeah, I think everyone was against that because it was just weird.
And then they came out against gay marriage. They came out twice, 2013. No, we do not support gay marriage in Samoa. And they reaffirmed it in 2017. No, we're not going to change that law. We do not support gay marriage.
And that's Whawhawhinge?
That's the Whawhawhinge Association of Samoa. Right. Okay, so a lot in our culture, the Whawhawhinge, there's a lot of Christian principles that they apply that are contrary to the rainbow community. The Pālangi rainbow community and their style. It's Destiny's Church have a lot of Christian, have a lot of beliefs where a lot of Samoans in Samoa agree with it anyway.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of Samoans are pro-Israel. A lot of Samoans are against homosexual relationships, of course. The Whawhawhinga Association do not support homosexual gay marriage in Samoa.
It's interesting that Eliota sees the rainbow movement, the rainbow, I guess, identity movement as a European, Western, white agenda that is being thrust upon our people, tangata whenua and tangata moana alike. When, you know, he uses the Whawhawhinga Association as kind of the example of, here is people that often identified as rainbow whānau but have go against gay marriage or against transgender people. And for someone that talks a lot about white people and this white world stuff being the root of all problems for our people, he never identifies that the Christian principles that are applied by our whawhawhine, which are homophobic, transphobic, and queerphobic, those were introduced to us by white people, because Christianity was just another tool of subjugation and placation by the missionaries and the colonizers to essentially ethnic cleanse, or maybe ethnic spot clean, our cultures and replace them with these pious and pure ideals of the Bible and Christianity. The adoption of the rainbow label and the iconography may be influenced by Western society, but having been at the Waimahara Auckland Pride closing event on the weekend, there is a growing movement for the re-indigenization of our queer identities. And I was so proud to see so many of our people, tangata whenua and tangata moana, representing on Saturday. Not only as people attending, but people who are organizing, people who are producing, MCs, performers, all kinds of things. Our people are taking the queer space back and reclaiming it for ourselves. They are re-indigenizing the queer identity within our cultures, and that is an amazing thing to witness.
Yeah.
And all over the world, this has been divisive. Sorry, all over the world. All over the white world, the colonial world, in Canada, Australia, UK, and America, it's been divisive everywhere. So now when it comes to New Zealand, even outside of Auckland, remember, it was in, they proposed it in like Napier, Hastings got cancelled, Gisborne. It's been divisive everywhere.
It's funny you should mention Hastings, aka Heritunga, because I was there to support our Rainbow whānau for their Love and Aroha Festival in lieu of the cancelled Storytime.
Does Destiny Church have this issue around the LGBTQ community in public spaces? You know, for example, they painted over the Rainbow Road last year as well, I believe.
No, they have not said that they did the one in K Road.
Oh, okay, so they haven't said that. Okay.
Fake news. The man found guilty of vandalizing the K Road rainbow crossing is none other than Ford O'Connor, and he's married to Brian Tamaki's granddaughter. He is a grandson-in-law and is also a member of the church. And Destiny Church also paid the $16,000 in reparations for the damage.
Man, I just think, man, don't be so fooled by this whole Palangi rainbow concept, man. White homosexuals are just as racist as white heterosexuals. Fuck. You know, when it comes to racist shit, you'll see some Destiny's Church brown dudes and some rainbow brown people together fighting the racist shit. You know, that's where we're needed. We're needed together to fight that shit, not these red and blue and rainbow and Christians fighting against each other all the time.
I guess you've never been on the receiving end of Destiny Church's racism and xenophobia, because I've seen it. I've seen their anti-immigration Islamophobic stances and the slurs that they say to people. And in fact, they rather uphold the colonial structures, the white people's structure, the white people's system, because I have also heard them say we are thankful to the colonizers for introducing us to Christianity, saving us from our savagery. So they're not going to stand with other brown people to fight against the white people because they adore the white people. They love the white people. They're fucking Polynesians.
Okay, you're going to find someone who you will agree with on 3 issues, but are completely opposite you on 2 issues. And you're going to fucking cancel them because you want them to agree with you in every single issue so you can control them. That's all it is.
That's the ugliest part.
This is the ugliest part is we just dismiss people for one thing. Like, I've said so many things this year. And when I said the post about this one issue, here come the woke lot. We've been waiting for him to say something we disagree with. Lateral violence. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yet more ignorance being displayed by Eliota. These aren't just issues, right? These are people's lives. These are people's existences. Destiny Church do not want queer people to exist. And if they do exist, they don't want them to exist in the world that we live in. They want them behind closed doors. They want them away from society. That's not an issue to be discussed. That is discrimination and that is erasure. So it's more than just disagreeing on a couple of issues. People's lives are not up for debate. Indigenous lives are not up for debate. Queer lives are not up for debate. And I thought you'd kind of understand that at least because you're Mr. Anti-Vax, Mr. Anti-Mandate, right? So you understand my body, my choice. You understand that your lives weren't up for debate. Regardless of whether we are on the opposite ends of that, you understand that fucking concept. So why do you not apply that leniency for queer people and indigenous people?
We called out New FM as a station because a producer there was Bailey Palala, who is a member of Destiny Church, who was present somewhat at the doorstep of, and so the network had come under fire from media, and that resulted in Pacific Media Network parting ways with Bailey. Some other things that are happening with Destiny Church and the rainbow community, but this is the most immediate thing. It's resulted in a Sāmoan being sacked from his job.
If you had seen my other videos, you most likely would have seen that I do admit I may have gone too hard on UFM and PMN in regards to Bailey's complicity in the attack on Te Atatū Library. But you've got to understand, I was fucking there. I was fucking furious. I was so fucking angry seeing the pain and the hurt Destiny Church has caused, that Bailey was a part of, that Bailey was cheering on, that I fucking went ballistic. I fucking went ham and I called out everyone. Bailey, New FM, PMN. I called for a boycott because if you've been in the activist space, you understand that boycott is a strategic tactic when it comes to activism. The people have the power, and if the people do not align with the shit that Bailey did in Te Atatū, they have the freedom of choice to not listen to New FM or PMN until Bailey is no longer part of the company. And throughout this episode, there is no fucking regard by Eliota or his team for the victims of this attack. It is always like, oh, he's hard done by. Oh, Destiny Church is kind of downplayed. They didn't do that much. They just kind of pushed. You should let them in, right? But there's no regard for the victims. Our queer whānau, our rainbow ainga. Have you talked to them? Have you asked them what they wanted? Have you asked them how they feel about what happened? Because I fucking have. And at Saturday, at the Waimahara event, I had so many of our rainbow whānau, white and tangata moana and tangata whenua, come up to me and thank me for that, because some of them work in radio. Some of them have been very much aware of Bailey's Christian extremist ideology, and they said that they never felt safe knowing that he was going to be at New FM, that he was going to be working at PMN. I just made it public. And that is what happened. And so I don't give a fuck what you guys think. I don't give a fuck about people going, oh, you went too hard. The people that were victimized, the people that were in danger, our queer whānau, our rainbow whānau, they have every right to know that when they walk into New FM, when they walk into PMN, that those studios are safe for them to be in. That is my priority. I don't give a fuck.
A virtue signaling, but his rightness must trump the radio median of New FM that provides for all these specific people's jobs, music, inspiration, talks. No, you must. He goes in there and he doesn't just get Bailey sacked. He's gonna dog New FM for simply existing. It's pathetic, bro. Just doing whatever these woke, this whole Palangi rainbow way of doing things. That's not the way we do things. It's just pathetic, bro. We just always in these woke Samoans with their theory and their self-righteous. I am pure than thou. Look, we all make mistakes. Okay, no one is fucking perfect, and we're gonna make more mistakes on our journey in this life. Shit.
And of course you're gonna complain about all this woke shit, right? But please enlighten me. What is your definition of woke? I would very much like to know what you mean by woke. But to accuse me of virtue signaling, that claim would only have teeth if all I did was talk shit. What you may not know is that not only do I talk shit on the internet, I back it up with action on the ground, in community. It's not virtue signaling, it's virtues in action. But in saying that, I would rather virtue signal than blow fucking racist, homophobic dog whistles. And I always found this fucking tribalism mentality really fucking weird. This idea that, oh, they're Sāmoan just like you. Go easy on them. Oh, don't go after them because they're Sāmoan. Oh, you went after a Sāmoan brother. What? Right? But I don't give a fuck about that. Because if you are my people, you wouldn't be a complete asshole. You wouldn't be an abuser. You would not be committing assault against members of the public. So, I don't give a fuck if you're Samoan. If you're an asshole, you're an asshole, regardless of culture. If you're a bad person, you're a fucking bad person, regardless of whether you're Samoan or not. And it's that tribalistic mentality that allows our abusers in our communities and in our families to fucking skate by. The ones who are like, oh, they're your uncle, they're your family, oh, don't let anyone know, the shame and all that shit. We're the fucking shame. You do the action, you get the consequences. Fuffle. Fuck around and find out. In the end, the Offside Show is a vehicle, it's a platform for Eliota's opinions. It's nothing more than social and political commentary. And because they don't have the requirement to uphold journalistic integrity, they don't need to provide evidence. They don't need to provide research. It's all anecdotes and hearsay and opinions. Very much like every fucking cis hetero male podcast out there, sharing their unsolicited opinions. I suggest you watch the whole episode of the Offside Show just so it gives you a fuller context of how that conversation develops among the team. I just had to make sure that any misinformation they share was corrected. And I had to make sure that I checked their biases, unconscious and conscious, because left unchecked and left to fester, that may bubble up and become dangerous, violent action, like it did at the Rainbow Storytime at Te Atatū Library. Toi whai loai, till next time, catch up.